is just and right. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah for woman suffrage. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah for woman suffrage.
Yes, sheet music, really. This was popular music that would have been sold to people to play and sing in their own homes. And as you can see, a lot of it was quite sentimental. For example, the song you're going to see now, "If she's good enough to be your baby's mother, she's good enough to vote with you." But there were also marching songs. We have a book that you can actually take home along with the CD. You can also borrow copies of the Women's Suffrage Cookbook. This is fascinating. It was compiled by high-ranking suffragettes as a fundraiser, and it includes their favorite recipes and house cleaning tips and more. And a lot of the recipes are really interesting because, as you see, they don't include any measurements to speak of, no temperatures, no times. You just have to know how to do things by feel. Now, another source that we discovered was the Postcard Archive, and this was a wonderful source for political cartoons. And as you'll notice as you look at them, these cartoons have a certain tone and theme. I wonder what that could be. Well, they were meant to be amusing, of course. And even if they weren't very positive towards suffragettes, they certainly brought them attention. As amusing as these cartoons are, the suffragette movement had a very serious side. In England, for example, a suffragette was actually killed when she ran at the king's horse. And in this country, many suffragettes suffered imprisonment and worse. Here, for example, a woman protests the imprisonment of her fellow suffragettes. One such prisoner was the young Dorothy Day, pictured here. Dorothy was barely 20 years old when she went to Washington, D.C. with a friend to protest for the vote. And she was not even a passionate suffragette herself, but that made no difference. The women were arrested and brought to a brutal labor camp in Virginia. There, they were beaten and threatened with rape. Young Dorothy had her arm twisted behind her back and was slammed twice against a fence. The older women with her were afraid the girl's back was broken. The treatment of the suffragettes during the Night of Terror brought much sympathy for their cause. But it wasn't only in D.C. that suffragettes marched. Here is a march in New York, and here are local marchers right here in Westchester. As I think you can see from the caption, these marches took place in Tarrytown and Mount Vernon. And here are a couple of young marchers in 1917. But one of the leaders in Westchester lived right here in North Castle. Her name was Anne Spencer Wright Watkins. She was born in Tennessee, where she was honored in a suffragette parade in 1916. As I think you can see, she had many accomplishments. She was the suffrage leader of the Westchester County 4th Assembly District, and in addition to participating in this parade, she organized a major demonstration in White Plains that same year. At this time, Anne and her husband John had a home in North Castle. She threw open that home in June 1916 for a buffet luncheon and conference of suffragette leaders. As well as being an organizer and leader, Anne was a writer. She published this book of poems for her husband. It includes a poem called "If Women Won't Help Politics, Politics Will Help Them." Here, Anne is pictured in The Woman Voter, a journal published by the Women's Suffrage Party of New York from 1910 to 1917. And here is her editorial to the North Castle Sun. She wrote it in the spring of 1914. In the autumn of 1917, on November 6th, New York women finally gained the right to vote, 3 years in advance of their sisters in the rest of the country. As Sharon points out in her article, the suffrage movement had been going on for more than 60 years before Anne S. Watkins became a local leader. But she and her peers got the vote. Let's always remember their leadership and their heroism.
Hurrah for woman suffrage! Hurrah, hurrah! For woman suffrage we shall fight, because our cause is just and right. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah for woman suffrage! Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah for woman suffrage! Then hurrah for woman suffrage! Hurrah, hurrah! For woman suffrage we shall fight, because our cause is just and right. Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah for woman suffrage! Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah for woman suffrage!